Hey guys and gals, it's me George, the Shade Tree Fix-It Man, and this is the day after the meeting with Dave Stroked Firebirdable. And as you can see, I've been tearing into this snowblower. I've got most of the parts disassembled out of the blower assembly itself. I still have to finish tearing this apart, pulling the gears and sprockets and all that good stuff out of there. And there's the chute and the handles. I haven't done anything with those yet. And I have the rear end over here. I'm going to call it a rear end for now, but I think it's going to end up being a steering box. I got to check and find out what the steering ratio is on a normal steering box. This one here, from my very meticulous testing, appears to be about 10 1/4 to 1, which means if I turn the steering shaft, right down here, we call that the steering shaft, that would turn 10 times to a full circumference of the impeller shafts. But you got to remember that in the process of our steering, we don't want it to be too quick, and we don't want it to be too slow either, but we can adjust gear ratios beyond the steering box by the pitman arm that we put on the end. Let me illustrate my point. Now, depending on the length of the pitman arm, assuming that this is my pitman arm here, if I turn this, you'll notice that I get quite a bit of movement at the bottom of my pitman arm. If I made it shorter, and let me see, how am I going to do this? I want to illustrate it well. Well, use your imagination. And we're still going down. If I do it shorter, there is a lot less movement, a lot less swing in that pitman arm than if it was way down here. You see what I'm saying? So I'm trying to hold this here. So depending on how long my pitman arm is, and then how long my steering link is out at the axle itself, will determine what I really need for movement. So I think, and this thing is pretty heavy duty, I could use this for a differential if it didn't have such a really steep gear ratio in it. If it was like 5 to 1, yeah, I would do it, but it's so slow. It takes 10 revolutions of this shaft to do 1 revolution of that shaft. So that would have lots of torque, but not much speed. So I think I am going to use this for the steering box. And with the 2 shafts, and these impeller tubes are frozen on there. I'm going to have to work at getting them off. I cut the impellers themselves off so I could get down in here and work at it more. But with the 2 shafts coming out either side, I can stabilize my steering by having bearings out on either end. And this shaft here, presuming that it's going to go out on the left side, which is your driver's side, normal setup. This one will go right through the bearing and then out to the pitman arm and down to the drag link that will go front to back to work the steering arm on the front suspension. If any of you are familiar with the old-time dirt track cars, I forget what they called them, but they often used what was called a Schroeder steering box. You can look that up online, see what a real Schroeder steering box looks like. But it was set up very similar to this. Went crosswise so you could have your steering wheel in the middle, and your shaft would be supported on both sides of the steering box, and your pitman arm would be on the side. So this is going to be our Schroeder steering box. Now hold on your hat, because I have one more thing to show you, and then we're done for today. I was at prayer meeting last night, and I got talking to one of the deacons after the service who happens to be a farmer. And I asked him if he had any small springs. He said, well, come on out, we'll look in the junk pile. Well, we went out and looked in the junk pile. We found a pretty sizable one that I could have cut down. And he said, well, I have a couple other places we could look. And so we went into one of his machine sheds, and he crawled back in the corner and up on a shelf. He pulled this down. This is a vintage, who knows what year, buggy spring. Now, they call these buggy springs on old Fords because they're set up very similar. This one is a real wooden buggy seat spring. And there would be two of these with the seat mounted up on top. And actually, I have the piece of metal that was bolted on here. There were 2 bolts here and 2 bolts down there on the bottom where it mounted to the wagon, and then the 2 that mounted to the seat itself. And I've already taken those off. So how cool is that? Whether or not we actually use this spring this way in the front of the Goofy cart, or if I split it, and I could split it by removing the pins, because one of these springs wraps over the other. This top one wraps over the eye on the bottom one. I could take the pin out and use one of these springs on the front and the other one on the back. And he said, well, you don't want to do that because it'll be kind of tippy, won't it? And I said, well, not if you have shock absorbers on it. And yeah, so we'll see. But how cool is that? It's just the right length, and the spring rate is just about what I was looking for. And so I'm really blessed. And that guy's name, he's a swell guy. He follows my channel here on YouTube. And his name is Larry Sugar. And so thank you, Larry, very much for supplying the Goofy cart with at least one piece of suspension. I'm thinking it might be kind of cool to keep it with this spring set up just the way it is here on the front. That's what I'm thinking. But we'll see what happens as time goes on. You know, my brain changes thoughts as we go on. I do have some tie rod ends. These are pretty nice. Came off of a ride mower that I junked that could be used on here. All it has in it now is all thread. But if I was going to use them, I would get some cold rolled steel rod that would not be so flexible as this stuff is, and just thread the ends. But I could use one pair for the tie rod end going across, the tie rod itself going across there, and I could use the other pair for the drag link here on the side. And so we'd have all our tie rod ends for there. Then I'm hoping to come up with some more tie rod ends to use down here to anchor our wishbones to the side of the frame. So I need another pair there, another pair there, so 2 more pair. So that's it for today. I've been dragging out pulleys, and mostly I've been working on disassembling the snow blower. It's time for me to go in for lunch, and we'll upload this video. So until next time, this is George. Whoa, you can't do it that way. Let me go outside. It's a beautiful day out here. It's only about 40, but still beautiful sunshine, you know. Oh, look at that sunshine on my face. Sunshine on my shoulder makes me happy. Or is that makes me sappy? I don't know. But it's a beautiful day here in Dodge Center. The sun is shining, and there's light billowy clouds, and a light breeze blowing now. Much better than the overcast of yesterday. Larry told me that there was snow early this morning before I got up. You wouldn't know it now. Bye now.